Welcome to Stories from the Center of the Universe, the podcast about the human experience.
Josh, Merkel, welcome to the Center of the Universe.
Great to be here. Excited to talk with you guys.
Yeah, for our casual listeners, they may not have any clue what the last few weeks have been like for you, or even the last few months. I think I want to start there. Well, before we go there, we connected to you through Pedro, Randolph Macon's football coach, and you are the basketball coach, and you have had quite the ride the last few years, few months, and a few weeks.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about the last few weeks first? Do you want to start there?
Yeah. I mean, the first thing I think of is, I'm a proud dad of three boys, and my wife's been holding it down all season. And I think of our 2.5-year-old transitioning from crib to big boy bed, and just it's been fun, but it's been full. And we got a 6-month-old, and so it would have been full no matter what. But I think juggling that has probably been a good, I don't want to say distraction, but it's been an awesome thing to be keeping me busy.
It's super busy doing any job with 3 small children at home, but traveling like you do. Mm-hmm. And I imagine besides, even out of season, you're still traveling a fair amount.
Yep.
Yeah, so she's keeping the homestead going.
She is, and our mother-in-law moved to Ashland from Pennsylvania, and so she lives in our neighborhood, which is amazing. And I don't know if we could be doing it without her being in town. She's been awesome. So BB's in, and they, her kids love Grandma, love BB. But yeah, so like this weekend, I'll go to Virginia Beach to recruit Friday, Saturday, and she'll hold it down. And I don't know how she does it, because I just had the 3 of them, because she went into work for a couple hours. And I was calling BB within 5 minutes saying, I need reinforcements.
They're exhausting.
Yeah.
They're absolutely exhausting. They're awesome, but they're exhausting.
Awesome. And my middle is already showing these tendencies. So when I pick up the 6-month-old, he loses it. I mean, the 6-month-old could be like ready to die, and the 2.5-year-old could care less.
Does not care at all.
You better pick me up too.
Well, and he's the middle kid too.
The middle, it's unbelievable.
That's going to be more pronounced as he gets older too.
Great, looking forward to that.
Yeah, saying that as a father of 3.
Yeah.
You're lucky to have BB. You're absolutely lucky to have her in the neighborhood. All right, so you won the national championship. I will tell you, as a guy who grew up in Ashland, and I don't remember the Division II Final Four that they had back in the late 70s, but I remember them making runs when I was a kid and when I was in my 20s. My mom worked at Randolph Macon as a professor, and so I've been to a bunch of games. Randolph Macon's always had a good reputation for their basketball team, but since you've been there, it is really amped up. I'll ask the big question up front. Is it more recruiting? How much of it's recruiting? How much of it is practice? How much of it is strategy and scheme, those sorts of things? How much of it is in-game coaching? I mean, give us a good feel for how you think you guys have been successful, which, by the way, you blew everybody out in the 6 games in the tournament, which has never happened before. The average was what, 20?
I think it ended up being 23 maybe.
23 points per game. It's insane.
Well, I would tell you it's 100% in-game coaching.
Nice.
No, well, number one, gratitude is the word I think. I'm grateful to be in that position, to be able to finish the season after the last couple that we've had, to stay healthy throughout the season. Randolph Macon has the 7th most wins in Division III history.
Wow.
So, they made that transition D2, and I think that's an important point to make too, because you had guys coming from Division II, scholarship level, super committed. They're on scholarship, kind of there to do a job. And then you make the transition, and I don't think we lost that committed player, that guy that's going to do the extra, be a 12-month-a-year player. And we've been able to walk into standards, set by coaches before us, right? Starting with Paul Webb, Hal Nunley, Mike Rhodes, who's still a mentor of mine, Nathan Davis. And I believe we've been able to compound and stack on the habits and the standards that have been built. Then you get a special player like Buzz. We could say that that's a big piece of this thing. Special player like Miles Mallory, those two, best point guard, best forward or post on the floor. Hard to find those positions, point and post. And they've got a great chemistry. Both guys from Maryland, both played in a competitive league. We've got committed and great role guys around them. So this group just, bought into their role, became all-stars in their role. We've got a good defense that And we've got learners. We talk about the growth mindset. So we watch a lot of film. That comes from my days with Beeline and just 15 minutes, 15 clips. And we talk about being a buzzsaw at the end of the year. So that we're just going to keep on getting better and better. When you have the right guys with the growth mindset that play fearlessly, that come to work, that are committed. I'll tell you one great story is Buzz started these Kurt Axe workouts. So this will give you a little insight into our team, because we said, we might be the team that beats ourselves. I think we have the talent to win it, but if we're not hungry, if we don't have a chip, then that's going to trip us up. So to describe maybe the hunger, the work ethic, and our guys work hard, and they're putting the time in, but everybody is. Everybody has a preseason. Everybody's lifting weights. Everybody's playing pickup. We'd say it's not what you do, it's how you do it. And so Buzz, even as a freshman, starts doing these 6 weeks of the preseason. Kurt, he didn't call them that at the time. Kobe workouts, what he called them at the time, Mamba mentality. And what he had learned from Kobe is that he would get 3 workouts in between team workouts. So we'd lift Friday at 5, we'd play Saturday morning in the preseason. So Buzz would then come in 9 o'clock Friday night. He'd come in 2 o'clock in the morning, Saturday morning. He'd come in 8 a.m. Saturday morning, and then we would play. So he's getting 3 workouts to build this mental edge. He'd invite the guys, he'd tell them about it. Nobody would make all 3, when Buzz was a sophomore. He'd have some guys come at that 9 o'clock. He'd have a guy maybe coming at that 8 a.m. Nobody's coming at all 3. Guys are like, you're crazy. What do you think? So then he does it as a junior, and same thing. But going into this year, well, even senior year, he had more guys, let's say senior. Going into 5th year, this year, we had 11 guys for the 6 weeks of the preseason. 2 a.m., 2:30 a.m. are in the gym in Crenshaw. Half of them are sleeping in the locker room to get through those workouts. And it just kind of shows you. So now you got 11 guys that are doing more than what other schools are probably doing. It helped us build an edge to our team.
There's no way more than 1 or 2 schools are doing something like that. I can't imagine. You guys may have been the only ones.
And with that many guys. So maybe you have a couple guys at each program, sure. But even then, I'm not so sure, because, I played 4 years. No one on my team was doing that. And anytime I've told the story, no one's saying, oh, yeah, we got guys doing that. So it speaks to the power and the courage that Buzz had to be different, because a lot of times when you step out like that, players are going to pull you back in. Right. What are you doing? Why are you doing this? And he's always been, I say, Buzz is signed with an agent. He's going to go play overseas. But he has been a pro since his freshman year with his approach, his goal setting, his discipline, an absolute pro. And so a lot of players will come in, even our level, you'd be surprised. They want to keep playing. They want to play pro. I said, okay, that's great. But they don't want to have a pro mindset until their senior year, until it's like really, they want to do what every other college kid is doing, don't want to separate themselves. Buzz has had this disciplined mindset that has been contagious, and other guys have seen it, and a couple other guys have stolen from it, and it's been huge for our program.
Well, I will have to tell you, I heard a lot about Buzz, and I had not been to a regular season game this past season, and shame on me, I should have. I was fortunate enough to go to the quarterfinal game, the last home game in the NCAA tournament, and I had never seen Buzz before. And your team comes out, and I'm not going to ask people around which one's Buzz. I'm going to try to figure out which one Buzz is, and I couldn't figure it out. I finally had to ask. I'm like, which one's Buzz? I'm like, the 5'10" guy with the beard. I'm like, that's Buzz? I thought he was going to be like 5 inches taller and with doing alley-oop dunks and warm-ups kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, how cool is that when you think about 5'10"? You think about all the players that say I'm too small. Let's take campers. And I always remind them, the most impactful player on the floor in just about every game we've played. I think back to his 5 years. There may be a handful of games he hasn't been the best or most impactful player on the floor, and he's doing it in a 5'10" frame. Incredible athlete though, surfer growing up. Both parents are coaches. Like, just a unique story, and but a unbelievable competitor. Like, if he would want to beat you at everything, spike ball, ping pong, whatever it is.
Any competition, like Michael Jordan throwing quarters up against the wall.
He's He may not remember the story this way, but we were playing ping pong to kill some time before a game or before practice one day at Gettysburg. And I swear, and I'm paying attention because we would switch sides after every win. So, he wins. He's a good ping pong player. I thought I was good, but he's beaten me. And he beats me like 4-1, and I know because we've changed sides every time. But he's like, no, it was 6-1, coach. And I'm like, Buzz, do I need to count it out for you? And so I'm like, remember we started the game here? And he's like, Okay, fine, 5'1", but he was like, I'm like, this guy. No wonder our guys are getting upset with his competitive nature. But yeah, he's wired that way.
Well, he's physically talented. Clearly, he's competitive to the point you just made. He also is very, very disciplined, which I assumed he was fairly disciplined, but I didn't realize it was to that level.
Yeah. Film watcher. I remember going back on the bus his freshman year, and he's pulling up an NCAA website that basically only coaches know about. I'm like, how do you even know about this website? But so, just he came to us because he wanted to be a coach. He turned down some schools, and he's just gotten so good. He's going to have an opportunity to play, but he'd be a phenomenal coach when he goes that way as well.
Sounds like that's what he's wanted to do since he was little, maybe. Yeah. All right, let's talk about you growing up. Where did you grow up?
Frederick, Maryland. Yep.
Born and raised?
Well, I'll say Walkersville, Maryland, Frederick County. But born and raised in Maryland. My mom played at University of Maryland.
Okay.
So we lived in College Park for a little bit. My dad was a professor there. Also worked with the football team. That's where they met. And then my mom always wanted to have a big family. She's coaching at the University of Maryland when she gets pregnant with me. She was in year 3 and had me, and then retired from coaching and had 8 kids after that. So I'm the oldest of 9.
Oh, my gosh.
Dad bought a farm, and not that we're farmers, but he bought farmland. That was part of his dream.
You needed the land for all 11 people, yeah.
And he was awesome about farm business. We had a corn business that taught us, value of work ethic, and so we irrigated and weeded and picked the corn. Got up early.
Yeah.
Pick 100 dozen on a Saturday morning. Sold it by the side of the road.
Wow.
Did that for a bunch of summers. So had a great childhood. I would say won the parent lottery. Both parents still both living on the same farm that we grew up. And then my siblings are all over the place. 4 on the West Coast, but 2 actually. I don't know if this would come up, but Marta went to Randolph Macon, played for Coach LaHaye. Was on that national championship, or the team that played in the national championship game. She was a starter.
Oh, nice.
On that team, and then my brother Job came as a result of Marta's, having a great experience, and Job played tennis and soccer for Randolph Macon as well.
Yeah, so it's kind of a family affair for you guys at Randolph Macon.
Yeah.
You mentioned LaHaye. She was very well known as being a fantastic basketball coach at Randolph Macon. It's a shame she never won a national championship, but
they were right there. They were right there in that game.
It's heartbreaking.
Make it so. Yep.
All right. So how many years older are you than the youngest of 9?
18.
Okay.
18 years.
Math works out. Yeah. That's still a pretty big gap.
She had 7 kids in the first 8 years of their marriage. I can't even fathom it. Now that we got 3, it's like, yeah.
Hold on. That's not BB. BB's your wife's mom.
Yeah, right.
Does your mom come down and help?
She does, yeah. But yeah, I think she's unbelievable with the kids, but there's nothing like raising your own kids. So it's she poured a lot into us.
I can't imagine raising 9 children. What was the one thing she was best at?
She's even now she has a passion for living, for life, for kids. She loves kids. She's great with babies, but she loves hoops. I will say too. So she was playing into her 60s in a women's league, senior Olympics.
Oh wow!
So the passion for athletics, certainly. My dad's not the best athlete, unbelievable worker, hardest worker I ever met. But my mom, that's where a lot of our love. I think 6 of the 9 played college athletics, and so we saw how much she loved it. I saw how much she loved it, and I always wanted to be, kind of tagged along. Watched her in the gym. She taught me how to shoot. They built the basketball court for us, and took a lot of shots there at the house.
Yeah, that's really cool. All right, so when did you know you were going to love basketball? How old were you?
I was young. My dad tells a story that I was watching TV. I saw my first NBA game. I might have been 6 years old, and I turned to my dad and I said, "Dad, I didn't know guys played basketball." Like because
your mom coaches.
Yeah, was paying attention to my mom.
Yeah.
But I knew that I wanted to coach. It was my 9th grade year. I played for a great high school, nationally ranked high school, St. John's Prospect Hall, Frederick, Maryland. Just got lucky that they were as good as they were, and that's where I ended up going. But my JV assistant coach, Kevin Sutton, unbelievable, inspired me, had a great influence on me. And I remember my first game, that JV freshman year, and he's giving the pregame talk, and I still remember sitting in an English classroom and saying, that's what I want to do. I want to be a high school coach when I grow up.
So you knew when you were 14, 15 years old.
That's what I thought, yeah.
Yeah, well, here you are. You just won a national championship.
Yeah.
You're national coach of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah, you couldn't have fathomed that when you were that young.
No, no. You think about playing in the NBA or coaching. And I always wanted to be a high school coach. I did that for 3 years, and the opportunity came to move to college, and be a GA and work for John Beeline. So it didn't, just an awesome opportunity there, and just have been super fortunate to work with the people and be at some of the places I've been. It's really helped shape me, influence the coach that I am.
So you played Division III college?
Played at Salisbury Division III.
Okay, because Randolph Macon plays Salisbury sometimes.
Yeah. Yep. And even when I was there as the head coach 4 years, I brought my team up and we played Nathan's team.
Okay.
Because I had worked for Nathan. So I know baseball, they do it. A number of sports.
Were you like a high school stud in basketball?
No, I wouldn't say that. I was the underdog, the guy that showed up for every workout, the guy that was, it was, when I say nationally ranked, we were 7th in the country my junior year, and I didn't play at all. I was on the team. 8 guys go on to play Division I. We were loaded, and a little bit unique. We didn't just get guys from the area, but we had guys from all over the country, from Spain, from Africa. Number of guys living with our head coach, number of guys living with the assistant coach. It was a little bit different deal.
Yeah.
So I could have transferred, going to a public school, probably had a little bit more recognition, better career. Stuck it out. Just said, hey, I know I'm getting the best here. I know I'm developing, and got some minutes my senior year. We were 2nd in the country my senior year. We lost 1 game. So I will say that foundation, though, of commitment, 12-month-a-year program, iron sharpens iron, competitive environment, don't run from a challenge. A lot of, who I've become and how I recruit guys stems from, the lessons I learned in high school.
Yeah, when you're playing every day in practice against guys that are on the 2nd best team in the country, it's going to make every kid better on the team.
It kicked my butt. I mean, talk about humbling, talk about, so I can relate to guys that are struggling, going through those hard times, trying to, earn their role. I can certainly relate to that part. And then I was able to earn more meaningful role minutes in my college career, yet we didn't win at the same level. So, I'd much rather, win and be a part of those winning teams than have the stats and not have that great team success.
Did you get recruited by Salisbury?
Yeah. I mean, I was recruited by a lot of D3s, and I know I got a letter from Macon and just kind of didn't look into Virginia enough. But even at that time, oldest of 9, didn't, like, my parents, they didn't take me on a single, I take that back. My dad drove me to some visits in Pennsylvania, but most of my, like, when I drove to Salisbury and checked out Salisbury and Washington, I mean, I was driving myself, and, now you got parents driving them to all the different, so my deal was a little bit different being the oldest of 9.
Well, you're a little bit younger than me, but given your age and the fact that you're the first child, I'm a first child, Silent Rob's the first kid, we were the experimental children for the family that parents learned by doing or not doing with us, and got better by the time. Number 9 had it made by the time your parents got to number 9.
Whatever you want to do, we'll support,
So why Salisbury?
It definitely, so I made a deal with my dad, long story short, that if I didn't get a scholarship, I would pay for college. Salisbury was the cheapest option. It also was coming off an Elite 8. It was 3 hours from my home.
Is it private or public?
Public.
Okay. Yeah.
Public. So, in some ways made sense, 30 minutes from the beach that didn't hurt things. But I really wanted to have a great career. I wanted to be a Catholic recruited me the hardest. They won a national championship, what would have been my senior year. But cost-wise, way too expensive.
Oh, it's incredibly
just
expensive.
Couldn't afford it over Salisbury. So that's where I ended up.
So it's a great decision. It ended up working out for you.
Ended up working out. Like, love my guy, my teammates, some of my best friends, guys in our wedding. But it, like anything, like and again, challenges there. Really struggled not winning at the level that we won in high school, not having maybe as many as committed guys. But find a way to add value, find a way to make this my team, if I could, junior, senior year, and kind of, just, although we didn't win at the level I would have liked, we did beat the national champs on their home floor.
Nice.
Last team to beat them. But, that's one regret I have. I share this with our guys all the time. I did not make the NCAA tournament as a player. I was very fortunate to start making it as a coach. West Virginia, Eastern Kentucky, Randolph Macon, all the places that I've been as a coach, Salisbury too. But didn't get there as a player, and that you don't get it back.
And you were starting your last couple of years?
I did, yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Were you the captain?
I was captain. Definitely my senior year. That's more when they did it like they'd only nominate the captains as seniors and things like that.
Yeah.
But I being the oldest of 9, you're kind of in a leadership position without even knowing it. So I was definitely heavy. I've never hesitated challenging the process, speaking up, being a leader in that way. Probably have rubbed some people, have learned how to round the edges and be a little bit better.
Sometimes it's fine to expose edges. Sometimes it's maybe not.
That's right.
Yeah, it's all about what's really important in that moment.
Yeah, and who's receiving it too, and what type of relationship you have with those guys and all that stuff.
Yeah. Tons of basketball for you, obviously, your entire life. I mean, age of 6, you learned that men play basketball, and you've been all about basketball ever since. Yeah. Is there anything else besides family, besides working, going to school? Was there anything else, hobbies or interests that you had outside of basketball?
Man, it is, I love to be active. I would say, whether it was lifting, now I've taken up running a little bit more, reading. I am a big reader. I love reading, to, work on getting all of our guys to just be, dive into that readers are leaders, learners are earners. I know Pedro being a big reader, we share books all the time. But that's it. Pretty boring, man. Never picked up golf. Played a little poker here and there, but have no time for any of it, basically, even for the book reading with the kids right now.
I don't think it's boring at all. Basketball, for me, has been my favorite sport my entire life. I have not been exposed to nearly as much as you've been exposed to, but I love the game. Why do you love the game so much?
Whew, yeah. Indoor sport, I think about that sometimes with some of those elements and seeing those teams, or maybe, think games being canceled. And I'm always grateful that, this is not necessarily happening to us. That wintertime, it's also because sometimes people go through maybe seasonal depression, let's say. And I've always said, man, this is such an exciting time. I'm thankful for this gift of basketball because I'm energized as we get into the season. It's always given me something to do. I love being part of a team. I like the size of it. I don't know how Pedro and football coaches do it, 100 plus. For us, that 15 to 18, going on a journey with that group of guys has been perfect. But yeah, just the grit, the resilience, all the life lessons that you learn through athletics. For me, it's one of those sports too that I could work on the farm, shooting on our pavement for hours without anybody around.
Right. Yeah, it's one of those things that you can get better at by yourself.
Yeah.
And it's unusual. Most team sports require at least one other person.
That's right.
Football, you're somebody's passing, somebody's catching.
Yeah. And even the elements too, lacrosse, they can go out there and they can hit against the wall, but you're going to be battling the elements at some point.
Yeah, that's a good point. I've always liked basketball because it's continuous until the referees mess it up by blowing the whistle. But it's a continuous game. Right, I like the continuous motion of the game. I like the fact that it's horizontal and vertical. I like that you can bring a certain skill set, and usually a coach can find a spot for you based on that skill set. Yeah, and I think you and Buzz are both lucky to have met each other, it sounds like.
Yeah, thanks for saying that. I will say you probably answered that question better than I could have in terms of what I like about the game. I was just I like the game. I love the game. But I would say, if I had to boil it down, it's been the perfect marriage of a coach and a point guard. And, our personalities probably pretty well suited. I can't even remember, getting in an argument with that guy, which is unique because he's pretty... iron-willed, and it's just been a good partnership from day one. We're going to miss that guy. He's taught me so much, made me such a better coach. And I think, your best players teach you what you don't know. He's taught me a lot, and it's been awesome.
That's cool. All right, so you got to be a GA with Beeline. How did you end up hooking up with Beeline or that staff?
Got lucky. I got to see him Cleveland Cavs training camp not too long ago. And, we were joking, and I always say, I know I was your 10th choice. And he's like, Josh, you were like my 15th choice. He doubles down on it. So I was the I was a head JV coach, assistant varsity coach at Prospect Hall where I played.
Okay.
Bruce Kelly, the head coach at the time, had a relationship with Jeff Neubauer, who was an assistant in West Virginia at the time. Jeff had come down to speak at our camp, high school camp. And I'm a JV coach. Neubauer's a great offensive coach. I just grabbed him. We talked for an hour. And he's like, have you thought about college? I said, I haven't really thought about college. He said, we'll have a GA opening up next year, but stay in touch with me. So I'd email him after every game, nothing crazy, maybe ask him a question or two. And sure enough, when that current GA spot was up, they invite me up to interview. And I think they were trying to get a current or a former player. But a lot of those guys have been playing overseas, and so it didn't work out. And I guess the interview went well, met with all the assistants, and I think they liked the fact that I was a little older, 25-year-old GA versus maybe right out of school. I know Beeline loved the fact that I was single and wasn't going to be, that wasn't going to be an issue in terms of time away from hoops. And so I was fortunate. It was supposed to be a 2-year deal. We go to the Elite Eight. We have an incredible year, have an incredible run. And Jeff Neubauer, the coach I mentioned, gets the head job at Eastern Kentucky and brings me with him. So, 5 years at Eastern Kentucky in the OVC, being an assistant coach, learned a lot.
So you were a GA for 1 year?
1 year. Got my PhD in coaching. Got Beeline's blessing. I basically wasn't even going to go to him with the opportunity. And Jeff called me, said, hey, would you? I said, I gave Coach a 2-year commitment. And he said, well, what if I talk to him? I said, if you talk to him, that's, talk to him and see what he says. And then Beeline brought me in the office. He said, Josh, there's no way. I can't get you a better opportunity a year from now. This is a guy that I trust. He's going to make you an assistant. You're going to be 26 years old, assistant in the OVC, which is a good level. You got to take it. I said, if you want me to take it. So sight unseen, and, drove to Kentucky probably within the weekend. And
so Beeline sounds like an awesome dude.
Unbelievable.
What was it like working with him?
Hall of Fame coach, I would say Hall of Fame person. There's some coaches that when you're around them, you can't even explain why they're so good. I just say they have it. And coaches, never been an assistant, so I'm there with them. And 30, I don't know, his 34th season, whatever it was, just had a great way about him. We're watching film every day. His basketball knowledge, he's forgotten more basketball than I could even talk about. But he was so good with the guys. I just remember getting off the plane. We had a tough loss. And, you charter a plane back, and it's 2 a.m, and we're, plane to the bus, then bus to the gym, and now everybody's exhausted. It's 2:30, and Luke Bonner, our freshman big at the time, played like 3-4 minutes, and I'll just always remember Beeline is up, and he just gives Luke, Luke, that was an unbelievable tap-back rebound you had today. And this is after a loss, 2:30 in the morning, and it's just resonated with me. He would always have the right message, right time, just really knew how to bring out the best and maximize, an individual, but also within the team. He was really good with building around franchise guys, but getting other guys to not turn it over. That's one thing we do now, that directly from him, get guys that can, you can recruit shooters, but you can also develop them, and then just not turning the ball over. Don't beat yourself.
Yeah. Beeline sounds like an optimist, an always positive kind of guy. And you tell me, was he optimistic, always positive, or was it more he knew what to say in the moment?
Yeah, he's positive. He's fun to be around. He can crack some jokes. I don't want to say realist, but he can definitely. He's just even keeled. Not too high, not too low. And a great teacher. Like the first word I would use is he's a teacher of the game. He's not gonna, he's not cursing guys. He's developing. He's helping you learn. That team at West Virginia, it's unbelievable what guys are doing. Where Dior Fisher was a longtime pro. He's now with the New Orleans Pelicans as a developmental coach, player development. Mike Gansey is the GM of the assistant GM Cleveland Cavaliers. His son Beeline was a head coach. Frank Young is now an assistant. I could go. Darius Nichols is the head coach at Radford. The manager, Hamlet Tibbs, is an assistant at Vermont. Another manager was with the Lakers. I could keep going down the line, but there's 10 of those guys. And I think what it was is he recruited guys that loved the game and also growth mindset, wanted to learn, and you just had a bunch of guys that loved it.
That's really, really cool. Yeah, you're very lucky to have spent that season or that year with Beeline.
Yeah, and then it even extended because Neubauer had worked with him for 12, 13 years, worked together at Richmond. So he was a big extension. Very different personalities, but still an extension. We were doing a lot of the same things and drilling a lot of the same way. But he did a Zoom with our team, as we were going through COVID. I know it was one of the favorites of our guys. He knew our team. He knew the guys. He did his homework. He has humble beginnings and Division III roots. He was a D3 head coach. He was a D2 head coach. He was a JUCO head coach. So he, I think he opened it with, you guys are, I don't know how exactly he phrased it. I have to go back to my notes. I always have me nervous, you guys don't realize how good you are. You guys could be playing at Division I, a lot of you guys if you wanted to. And I'm like, Coach, this is not how I want to get this thing started. But his point was, one of his main points was, there are very few college athletes that make it all 4 years, regardless of level.
Oh, yeah.
You have a lot of guys that just don't make it. We all know because, you've been there too. And it's a great point. It's we say those who stay will be champions, but it is not easy. And I think it says a lot about, the people that there's reasons why you wouldn't do it, but it says a lot about the guys that can stick it out because it can be a grind. It can be hard.
Yeah, especially when you're doing it year round.
Yep.
And you're trying to be a student as well.
Yeah.
Because Division III, there's no like special compensation for a Division III kid for school.
And even the status, you're not going to have the same status that some of these guys are getting at the Division I. And I coached there for 6 years in Division I. I wouldn't trade my Division III roots, those underdog roots, for anything. And I feel bad in some ways because, you do so much. I don't want to say enable at that level, but you do so much for those guys. You got such big staffs, like you almost need something to do. And it can take away from them solving problems on their own, taking ownership for their development. I'm talking about that Division I level. And, our guys are lucky in that sense. Adversity
and struggle are very important to building strong basketball players, strong citizens, strong, you name the noun.
Yep.
And Division III is probably a better path for folks long term.
Yeah. I mean, certainly, no disrespect to any that have done it differently.
You go to the NBA, make a bunch of money, great, but I'm not sure you've developed as a person maybe the way you would have coming through Division III.
I think there's a lot of benefit to, as we know, we most of our great lessons were through some failure or things that we figured out on our own. And at our level, since we can't be as hands-on, these guys do have to, if you get the right guys and you build the right environment, they can solve problems on their own a lot.
Yeah, and they're better off for it.
Yeah.
All right, fondest memory from Eastern Kentucky.
We had a couple good teams, a couple great runs. I would say probably playing UNC. We were the 16 seed. We won the OVC tournament, probably winning the OVC tournament. But then, that whole week, how excited the community is that you're going to play. And we were the 16 seed playing the 1 seed UNC when they had a great team. Tyler Hansbrough and company.
Yeah, Blue Bloods.
Blue Bloods. So we were down. I remember being down big in that game and like looking at the scoreboard and saying, "Man, I'm not looking up at this scoreboard again." But we made a run, cut it to 6, and that was super exciting. And Roy Williams over there, still calm as can be, pretty much the whole time. I don't think he broke a sweat.
He's pretty calm and cool cat. There's no question. Yeah. I've physically been in his presence one time, Dallas Airport, shuttle to the rental car area. And he's not a big guy.
No.
At all.
No. Yeah.
I was shocked by that.
Yeah. Big golfer and a good guy.
Yeah, that's really cool. All right, so Eastern Kentucky to then Salisbury?
No, Eastern Kentucky, non-traditional move. I, after 5 years there, felt like I wanted to be a head coach, Division III level. And really didn't there was a process where I didn't even get an interview at Marymount because I was a Division I assistant. They only interviewed D3 guys. Mm-hmm. So I started looking at this saying, man, I played D3, but ADs are not, I'm not even getting an interview because being at the Division I level.
That's weird.
Well, it's, yeah. I mean, depending on who it is.
Yeah.
I think some of them like that you had that experience, but if you're in it, they may look at it like, well, he's just doing it and then he's going to leave or whatever it is. So I made the move voluntarily. And I knew J.D. Byers, who was the assistant to Nathan Davis at Randolph Macon at the time. He and I are close. And J.D. had called me, just randomly called me that day and said, hey, I'm taking the job at St. Francis. And we had talked a little bit about, he said, would you be interested in this spot? I said, yes, I would. He said, I'll talk to Nathan. I'll see what he's thinking. And, basically Nathan had a couple guys in mind, and I was one of them. He brought me to campus. I hadn't met Nathan before that. Knew Mike Rhodes really well. Mike and Nathan were close. Mike put in a good word for me. And, so made that move from Eastern Kentucky to, I say, the only coach in the country to voluntarily go from D1 to D3 as an assistant and make that move. But told Nathan I would be there for 2 years. I wanted to learn, how to do it. Like if I did get a head job, it would be an awesome way to learn by being at Randolph Macon. Because remember, my college, Salisbury, we weren't as good as I wanted to be. And I learned a lot of things from Randolph Macon, the culture, the behaviors, the environment that they had set up. Exposed me to some things that I didn't know about, didn't know that you could do. So told him I would be there for 2 years. He said, unless your alma mater comes open and they hire you. Okay. And then sure enough, 1 year in, alma mater opens, the only job I interviewed for that year. And, happened to get it. And I was there for 4 years before coming back.
We have a bit of a theme where you have a 2-year commitment and ends up
right.
Only lasted half of that time.
Yeah. And so now Randolph Macon, 7 years, 7 seasons. This is the longest I've been in any spot.
Yeah, it begs the question, like you have to have attention from other programs everybody's looking for lightning in a bottle. Hey, maybe Josh can come here and do the same thing he's done at Randolph Macon. I'm not going to ask any of those questions because, look, I want you to stay at Randolph Macon until you retire. And so I'm not going to wish that into the universe, but I imagine you're getting some attention. Salisbury, fondest memory from being there.
Yeah, I let my last year there, so year 4, and had to do some heavy lifting. They'd only won one conference championship in the history of the program. Hard to believe because they've got great success in a lot of other sports. But in year 4, 21-8, we win the CAC championship. We beat a really good CNU team. We get to cut down the nets in front of our home crowd and then go to the tournament, win a game in the tournament, lose in the second round. But I would say winning it there, being a player there, and then to be able to take that team back. First time since 90, I think it was 99 that they had been to the tournament. Is that right? Maybe 97. It had been 21 years.
Been a long time.
Since they had been to the tournament, so it was pretty special.
Yeah, and you took over a program that was not doing super well, and then you're making the tournament, and you win your conference for the first time in a long time, and you win a game in the tournament. How did you do that in such a short time frame? And it was more than just you, but you were a big part of it.
How do we do it? Well, we got some good players. You're able to get some transfers, so we were able to get some older guys, but also built it through quality young guys and freshmen. And just, I don't know, we had talented guys that bought in, that started putting in the work, and got better as the year went on. So even at 21-8 team, I believe we started the season 3-6 and then finished 17-2. It was something like that, where we even had our best player struggle academically and just wasn't all in, and we're growing through these pains. And then when he left the team, it was like our team was able to take off. Other guys emerged, and credit to those guys. We only had 2 seniors on that team, and left it in great shape. That team won even more the following year, while we struggled a little bit at Randolph Macon my early years. Yeah,
and so you came back to Macon because you had serious ties to Macon. The job comes open, and it was a no-brainer for you?
I wouldn't say no-brainer. Hard to leave your alma mater. I had kind of envisioned myself maybe retiring there at Salisbury. Oh, wow. Winning national championship there. Met my wife there. She was working in higher ed. She was working at Salisbury at the time as well. She was pregnant with our first. But the tradition of the program, having been there and knowing how serious they are about basketball, it was something I was wrestling with. I don't think they were as committed about basketball at Salisbury, and I'm struggling with that at the time.
Sure.
So the commitment, the leadership, President Lindgren, who I got to know when I was an assistant, Jeff Burns, who I certainly got to know as an assistant, love the alignment of the leadership, love the community support, and love the area, and felt like it was a great place to be recruiting to. And, so it was a family decision too. I felt like, man, my wife on the Eastern Shore for the next 30 years, she may not be as excited about that as us retiring there as I am.
Yeah, we're in Ashland, which is just north of Richmond, and I tell people all the time we're a couple hours from the beach, we're a couple hours from D.C., You're an hour and a half from the mountains. Like, what's not to like about living in Central Virginia?
Yeah, and a lot of opportunities too. You got 3 colleges, with VCU and Richmond, and her being in higher ed. So, it wasn't an easy decision. I think it was the right decision, and it certainly wasn't easy. They say those big life changes, change jobs. Both of us changed jobs. She, went from working to not working, having a baby, and making a move. We did all of them at the same time there when we did it. Yeah,
that's a ton. And you mentioned Richmond and VCU. The city of Richmond, or Richmond Metro, I would say as a guy from here, it is known more for basketball than it is any other sport.
That's
especially at the collegiate level.
Yeah, great point. No, I mean, they've got great, and certainly, our connection with the VCU program and Mike Rhodes and Jamal Brunt and all those guys, JD Byers that are over there now, has been really neat too. The ability to go over there, learn from those guys. Rhodes has been over, talked to our team, been over to Crenshaw. So have Jamal and JD. So, we're really fortunate to be where we're at.
And I don't think either one of us meant to keep Virginia Union out of the conversation. They have a very rich history, and the program has been fantastic.
Well, and Virginia State's been doing great too. Yeah. So, we could go on and on with the list. But
yeah, very cool. All right. So you mentioned recruiting earlier. What is recruiting like for you out of season? Because you're recruiting all year round.
Yeah, as you know, 365. It just changes. I would say it just changes what class you're recruiting. So we have finished the 2022 class, but you're building your list. For us, okay. One way I could say it is, if we were going to bring in 8 guys in a class, than to get. We've kind of developed a system where if you're going to bring in 8, you want to bring in 80 good players to campus. Get a yield of, if you bring 80 good ones, you're going to get 1 out of 10. So to get 80 good players to campus,
you're bringing in 80 kids every year?
The year that we brought in 8 2 years ago, we brought in 76 visits.
Wow.
Of good players. I would say legit good player, felt like they were above the line type guy. Now, when we bring them, there's some guys, and Pedro does the same, as is not a good fit. Thought it could be a fit, not a potential fit. You learn a lot when you get them to campus. But I would say, yeah, I think it's never easy to get good players, to national championship level players. You can't just settle for the guys in Virginia. You've got to beat the bushes. Rhodes would always say, make the most calls, drive the most miles. That's how we've done it. My assistant's doing an unbelievable job, and I've got great continuity with Dave Maturo being with me for the last 7 years. And then our guys develop and they stay. Somebody asked me, like, how does the portal work? I don't know. We haven't had a player in the portal.
I was going to ask you that question. Like, the portal wreaks havoc in Division I, typically.
Right.
Division III, I guess a little bit, but not at Randolph Macon.
A little. Hasn't trickled down quite to the extent where you have 3, 4, 5 guys leaving each year. And this is another reason why I feel fortunate is, they love the school. They feel like they're developing. They feel like they're growing. They feel like they're going to get a good opportunity after they graduate. And so that, they love being on campus. They love being around their teammates. And that's the goal, right? Just be where your feet are and be there for 4 years. Make that commitment.
I have to ask about, we'll go back to Buzz for a second. Buzz was the ODAC Player of the Year 4 years in a row. Nobody's ever done that before. How did he do that at such a young age?
Yeah.
The first time he won it.
No one had done it. No one had been a 3-time ODAC Player of the Year. It's so how did he do it? This is a great story too, but he did not get the ODAC Freshman of the Year. Typically, there was another player who averaged maybe 16 a game for Bridgewater that got it over Buzz. And the way they used to announce it would be, so we finished as the 1 seed that year, his freshman year. And biggest upset, lowest moment in my coaching career is we're the 1 seed. We lose to the 8 seed Eastern Mennonite. We're up 15 in the second half, and we find ways to lose. I don't do a good job. We find ways to lose.
I'm not trying to be funny. I didn't realize Eastern Mennonite had a basketball team.
They were the 8 seed that year. They had never beaten us in the tournament. They had never beaten us at home. They did both of them that year.
Wow.
We finished 19-8. It's not like we had a bad team, but we weren't a buzzsaw. We weren't quite getting better. There were some bumps in the road. It was Buzz's freshman year. Buzz is trying to, bring this group along, but it's hard as a freshman, and we're playing some other good teams. So anyways, before the game, we find out basically, like, as you go out, that's how they would announce it, is before the game. Now, they've since changed it because I didn't think it was a good model.
Yeah.
And so now they do it the night before. But Buzz finds out right before the game, I'm not the Rookie of the Year. Pissed him off. I don't want to say it affected him. Whatever. We just didn't play well. We lose. But I knew, as I've described Buzz, the coaches, by not voting him Player of the Year, did us a favor because
his payback the entire next few years.
Next year, he's the ODAC player. He goes from not being the Rookie of the Year and not getting any all-league recognition. Doesn't get voted anything. He was our best player.
Wow.
Two-way player, our best defender. He wasn't our leading scorer that year, but he was clearly our best player. He emerged from December on. But the coaches didn't vote him, and so he comes back the next year, and he's a beast. And the guys around him, to their credit too, nobody's good alone. But we had most of that team back. We only graduated 1 senior, and those juniors who were becoming seniors going into Buzz's sophomore year, they had a great summer. And those guys, like, we're not gonna lose if we lose in the ODACs, we're gonna have such a good body of work that we will get an at-large bid, and that's exactly what happened because we lost in the championship game. We had two injuries. I won't say that's the only reason, but we lost 2 starters basically.
Yeah, that hurts.
And but we were able to win 2 games in the NCAA tournament and lost in the Sweet 16 to Swarthmore, who went on to play in the national championship game that year.
Yeah, Buzz, he ended up doing 5 years because of COVID. Is that right?
Exactly.
And so were there 5 full seasons during his tenure?
We played 12 games the year last year. Yeah, COVID year. So, basically the way it was set up was the NCAA did not define early enough will they give you a year back. So most students had to make a decision, and Buzz right away said, if there's a chance that I can't have a full senior year, then I'm just going to take a gap year. So initially, he was going to take a full gap year. He and David Funderburg. He convinced his roommate, David Funderburg, to do this with him. Convinced his now wife, Becca. I don't know if he convinced her, but she did the same thing. So he's going to take the gap year, but halfway through, the NCAA says everyone gets the year back. When that happened, he just took a gap semester. Came back in January. They were actually student assistants, Fundy and Buzz, for us, which was pretty funny that first semester. And so he got to play in those 12 games. And, his senior year, essentially, not the fifth year, but senior year.
Right, and he was player of the year for that 12-game season.
Right, yeah. Player of the year, and, we were still able to, win an ODAC championship. It was weird. We were the 5th seed, and so we went on the road and won 3 games on the road, and then got to play Trine for, battle of unbeatens, or maybe 1 versus 2. They were 2 at the time. We were 1, and so that was really neat, unique that we got to do that. And, a lot of guys learned some things, too, through that year that certainly served us. Some programs did not get those games, and, I know that was huge for our learning.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not doing anything in that COVID year, it's almost 2 years of not playing scheduled competition basketball.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. All right, I know we've talked about Buzz a lot. I've got one more question about Buzz. What was the recruiting process like from your perspective to get Buzz to come to Randolph Macon?
We saw Buzz as a junior because we were recruiting one of his seniors, kid that went to Coast Guard. And Justin Kane. It's funny because Buzz says if we had gotten Justin Kane, he probably wouldn't have come because I guess they didn't hit it off as teammates. So we're seeing this 5'8" guy that's just everywhere. Great motor, just ultra competitive. It's hard not to miss. Like every D3 would have loved to have Buzz. I mean, he was getting recruited by – he kind of pushed a lot of them away. It really kind of settled on St. Mary's, us. Now, Patriots knew his name. He went to Bucknell's elite camp, Navy's elite camp. Navy wanted him to go to their prep school. Buzz lost in high school. So he went to Archbishop Spalding, which was in a really good league, but he was getting his butt kicked because he's basically the best player. They don't even have any other Division I guys. They're going up against teams with 3 or 4 Division I players. So he's losing. I think they went 8 and something, 8-20 maybe. So he's looking at Navy, who didn't have a winning record, and he's like, I cannot go somewhere and keep losing. So that was, big attraction for us. And then the coaching piece, having the coaching tree. I had both Nathan Davis, who was at Bucknell at the time, reach out. I had Mike Rhodes reach out, and he's like, man, this is pretty awesome. Sean McAloon, who's head coach of IMG national team and a RMC alum, he reached out. So, that was a big part. But I'll never forget driving up, 6 a.m. workout at Spalding. I leave my house at 4:15 to get there in time. He's the one opening the keys, opening the door. He's the one putting 2 or 3 guys through the workout. And it was, I'm just saying, man, if we get this guy, he's going to make everybody a better ball handler, if nothing else. And, he just made them all better players and better workers.
Wow. And what was it about Randolph Macon that, the fact that you had a few people that were fairly well known in those circles reach out to him, was there anything else about Randolph Macon?
I think the winning tradition, but definitely the coaching. He had an offer from Catawba. But the winning tradition and the coaching. And we hit it off, but I will say he went to St. Mary's. He did an overnight. There were a bunch of guys that had either quit or weren't as committed, and so he didn't have that same sense. He liked the overnight with our guys. Felt like we had a committed group of guys. Yeah. And so that was huge. Probably
comes out pretty readily too, I imagine, when a kid comes to school and spends some time on campus.
Yeah, I mean, you attract who you are, and that's a big thing we talk about a lot. If I wanted a bunch of hard workers that were super committed, but I didn't have them in our program, I don't think we'd be attracting them either.
Yeah, that's a great point. All right, let's talk about the rest of the team. We've talked a lot about Buzz. Tell me about the rest of your national championship team.
Yeah, I mean, it starts with Miles Mallory, junior, All-American nod as a sophomore, Maryland guy, played in that same league, so MIAA, Pilate High School, a tweener. Both those guys, just for whatever reason, they said Buzz was too short, let's say. Miles is a 6'5", but doesn't play above the rim, but super skilled touch, set the blocks record. So in those two guys, you have the best defenders, too. Guys that hunt competition. Miles is very unassuming.
He seems like a very quiet guy.
Speak to you unless you're spoken to. But on the court, he's a killer. He just has an assassin mentality, and he's had it. He was a double-digit scorer for us as a freshman. So he's come in and just been awesome from day one. And then Josh Talbert is another guy that was a double-digit scorer as a freshman, came in big and strong. He came to our elite camp as a sophomore. I just remember, man, this guy's got a great frame for a sophomore. I'm asking him how he eats. Like, doesn't eat sweets, candy, like super healthy, eats salad. I'm like, this kid is just built different. And, came down to us and seeing you. Another tweener, though, like a 6 foot, 6'1", just kind of slipping through the cracks, we say. We want scholarship guys that slip through the cracks. So that, those franchise guys, those core, and then we had some guys really emerge. And Will Coble, who started in the championship game in the Final Four, was not playing as much early in the season. It's been awesome to kind of see that progression, him just get better defensively, which is where he needed to grow. Daniel Bange, who's going to be was a fan favorite this year, Northern Virginia guy, just a jack of all trades, great rebounder, great nose for the ball. He was a starter for this team. And then, Ian Robertson could have started for most teams in the country, came off the bench for us willingly.
He's your lefty.
The lefty.
So let me just say something about Ian real quickly. In that Elite Eight game and also in the championship game, I watch a lot of basketball. You watch more than I do, but I watch enough to know that when you're in the second half of a game and a kid's about to throw up a three, you know whether it's going to go in or not. And with Ian, I'm like, every time he put up a three, I'm like, there's like a 90% chance these threes are going in for him. It was awesome to watch him go through the hoop.
Great feeling when you think about that, But you're right. It doesn't make every shot, but everyone looks like it's going in. He's a 40% career 3-point shooter. He came in freshman. Averaged 6.7 points a game as a freshman on a 27-win team. So has always had the talent. There's another guy that had Division I recruitment. Nobody pulled the trigger. Dialed in on us, did an overnight, had a great experience. I still remember his parents, awesome people, Carrie and Vince. After the national championship game, we're celebrating in the lobby. And Carrie had always said, Ian would love it if he comes to you guys. So Mom had always said that. Dad a little more resistant. Dad wanted to see him go play at the highest level. But Dad right there was just, Coach, I'm glad you stayed with us. I'm glad you were patient, because he didn't commit until like mid-April. We couldn't have envisioned him having a better career anywhere else. So that was, I'm like, can we get that on voice recording and start sending it out to these other parents that, feel like level status is at what you're seeking, and, having that impact and getting him to be able to just be a winning piece, because he started games in his career. But here was a guy, it's a perfect example of how our guys just came together and embraced who they were, their role, whatever it was. It was like, as long as we're winning, Coach, I'll trust you and play whatever role you have for me. Funderburg is another guy that we haven't talked about yet, but same way. Started, I think, every game his senior year, that COVID year, and started a bunch of games this year. But it was like, who's playing best? Almost like a pro team. If you look at teams playing in a series right now, they'll change starting lineups from game 1 to game 6. And we had that flexibility. Now, most colleges don't do it because of the egos and the hurt. And, if I do that, I'm going to lose this guy. With Ian and Fundy and even Daquan, you just never had that. I had complete trust that, hey, guys, I'd tell him in the shoot-around, hey, I'm going to go with Coble. I think he gives us a better chance. I think he guards this guy better. Whatever, Coach. Yeah, I don't care.
Team first.
Team, yeah.
Yeah.
We trust you.
No, that's awesome. I have to say that watching the one game in person that I did and the one game on TV, the championship game, I knew you guys were winning a lot of games by a lot, many double-digit leads and finals. And it's always nerve-wracking when the game's close to the beginning. I'm like, are they gonna stretch it out? And eventually, it's either late in the first half or early the second half. You do stretch it out, and it couldn't have been nerve-wracking for you. As a fan watching, I'm like, well, this seems easy now that they're up 22.
Yeah. Well, definitely not nerve-wracking. Because, I don't I get nervous maybe right before, like anybody, the anthem's playing and, you get a little bit butterflies. I get that. You start doing my breathing. But, once you get in game, you control what you can. And you start to get a certain rhythm for that. I will say, even in championship, we're up 30. I did not relax until under a minute. I kind of remember the moment with like Buzz coming off the floor, Josh coming off the floor, us being able to share a hug over there. But I look at it now and I'm kind of loud. It's like we were up 30, but that's just how we had been wired, of just coach every possession, coach what you see. I work hard not to look at the score. Obviously, I knew we were up big, but that's kind of the mindset is let's play to the standard. Let's not worry about the score. The score will take care of itself. And so that helps.
Play like you're tied or you're behind.
Exactly.
All right, so you talk about kids falling through the cracks to Division III. I told somebody that I work with that that was unusual. That's never happened. But we're still recording. We're good. Just for our listening audience, the power went out in the entire house for about a second or two. That was unusual. Yeah, so I was talking to this guy at work, and he says Division III basketball players are very, very talented, especially at the highest level, the national championship level. There's just something that was off when they were being recruited typically, usually height, I'm guessing. But I don't know. You tell me, why do these kids fall through the cracks? Because if you look at your players, and look, I will say this. The team was fantastic, but you've also got some really good players.
Yeah.
Why are they not in a Division II program or Division I even?
Yeah, I mean, I think if we were going to take Buzz for instance, but athletically, physically, those are some of the reasons. So guys have some gaps, and some people may never close it. Like for me, 6'1". Not physically imposing, not fast. I was not a scholarship level player. I'm not helping anybody win the league. That's the other thing. So even while you might be good enough to play at that level, they're looking at your athleticism, your ceiling. Can you help us win the league? Can Buzz help us win the Patriot League? And all those coaches were saying no. And then there's a bunch of groupthink that, he was at Bucknell's league camp. They don't think he's good enough. He was at Navy. They don't think he's good enough. We can't take him. So you have that groupthink that does go on a lot. People make mistakes recruiting. Like Division III, we get to see a lot more kids, I think, than they do now with all the dead periods, and they don't have as many opportunities to go out and see kids.
Why? Because the rules are that stringent?
The rules are stringent. You got big staff, so as an assistant, okay, I would go see a kid. Let's say I see a kid in Chicago. Well, can I get my head coach to see that same kid in Chicago? I see him on a good day. I send my coach flies out there. He sees him on a bad day. He's not good enough. Well, no, I think he's good enough, but, especially high school kids, they're not always playing consistently. And so I just think a bunch of mistakes are made. But I also think, we got guys that are where they're supposed to be. And although, yes, Buzz could have played up, there's no doubt in my mind he could have impacted winning at a lot of places. He knows that. I know that. Anybody that knows basketball, watches us play, like he signed with an agent. His agent, who does not have any other D3 guys, is like, I don't even see him as a D3 guy. Like, this guy can play, and 5 years from now, no one's going to know that he was a Division III player.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean he didn't end up going where he should go, because he had an unbelievable career that not many people can say they had.
Well, he had a fantastic career. I mean, he's going to look back the rest of his life with extremely fond memories of his time at Randolph Macon. Yeah. All right. So, weird question time. There's no way to transition to this smoothly, but this is a question we ask most of our guests. And did we do this with Pedro? I don't know that we did this with Pedro. We may not have been doing this question back then. All right, you're a talk show host. It can be late night, it can be daytime. You only get to be the host for one show, though. You get 3 or 4 guests, and you'll understand the 3 or 4 here in a second. Mm-hmm. 1 male, 1 female, a musical group, and or a comedian. They can be alive or dead. They can be famous or not famous. They can be people you know or people you don't know, but and you can the show can be educational, the show can be entertaining, it can be thought provoking. It's whatever you want it to be. Who are your 3 or 4 guests?
Holy smoke, man!
This is meant to be a little more revealing about who you are as a person.
I will say the one that Jerry Seinfeld is going to be the comedian.
Okay,
love everything about that guy. He'd be hilarious. He'd have us rolling. I've always wanted, Kobe when I think of having an elite athlete and being able to learn from him. So whether it was Kobe or Michael, I could go either way on those guys. I also think Charles Barkley would be very funny. But anyways, I'm already giving you too many guesses. So.
Barkley could be the stand-up too. Maybe.
Yeah, I know. He's great. Singer group and then a female as well. That one's tough. The first one I'm thinking of is like Shania Twain. I loved her music. So. Okay. I haven't listened to that in a long time, but
you like country
but at one point, I was listening to Shania. Probably my first concert that I ever went to. So maybe we'll bring her into the mix. And man, does that cut it? Is that
you want to use her as both the musical and the female?
I'll use her as the female for sure. So if I was going musical, I'd probably bring Bob Marley in there because I love reggae music.
Bob Marley was a man before his time. He was amazing.
Amazing, yeah.
All right, we've talked about a lot of people that have had an influence on your life in general and your basketball life. Are there some folks that we have not talked about that have had an influence?
Yeah, because I mentioned Kevin Sutton, my high school coach. Stu Vetter was my varsity coach. Certainly had an influence. I mean, really, like my childhood, mom and dad, my siblings, and
all 8 of them.
All 8 of them, but certainly Dad, his work ethic, how he. He never stopped moving. He's still not, he's still going. 82 years old, would come to the games, would hop in the car, would do anything for his kids. Just the rock of our family, and learned so much from him, and most of it just his example. He's got a bunch of Merkelisms, we'll say, but I think one of his favorites was, and I share it with our guys too, but things done by half are never done right, basically. And that has stuck with me to this day. He'd make me go back and do it. If it wasn't done 100%, go back and do it. And
you are who you are today because of that, in part.
Oh yeah.
Talk about Randolph Macon as a school and as a support entity for the basketball team. What has Randolph Macon as a college meant to the basketball?
The community's been awesome. I mean, they're behind our guys. You think about Barkley in the bookstore and how she knows, our guys who they're dating and the guys that have come before us.
She may know too much.
She does. She probably does know too much. And she knows not to reveal it all to me as well. But, just how they've embraced even, Morgan, the kids, in the dining hall, that people will know my kids' names when we walk in there. It's just a great place to be. I think you have a bunch of people that love being around, young people that love being around, successful people. I think there's a culture there, being in the center of the universe, that, unless you're there, it's hard to describe, it's hard to explain. I think maybe even the size of the school has been great. And I was trying to describe this, but, when you have people that you like being around, being at a small school is a great thing because you see more of those people, or get to see those people more and more.
Yeah,
it's been a special place.
What about the town of Ashland? What's the relationship like between the town of Ashland?
So growing up on a farm, I'm not a city guy. I would be terrible in New York City or wherever else. Ashland is my speed. It's perfect. Like, we've gone to that movie theater that we love.
It's great that it's reopened. It's awesome.
It's awesome. Like, love that place. We love Iron Horse. We love the Caboose. We love Origin. Like, just that area right there by the train tracks. It's a great area to raise a family, raise kids. We have a great neighborhood. Love being able to bring them to campus, see the other sporting events. Whether it's soccer, baseball, football games have been awesome. Pedro's recruiting my boys all the time, trying to get them to eat vegetables. Got a special relationship really with a lot of the coaches on campus, with Bray Hedrick and Josh Lux, to name a few. It's been just an awesome community.
Yeah, let's end with talking about your wife and your 3 boys.
Yeah, well, she said as I was leaving, don't be afraid to brag about her. So we've been married now 8 years, coming up on our 9-year anniversary. Met at Salisbury, like I said. She did not see a single basketball game until we started dating. Like, she, so it's probably a perfect marriage, perfect fit in that, she was calling the shot clock for probably her first 4 years. But has grown, to learn a lot about the game. I knew I was in trouble year 4 when, we'd lose a game and she'd start giving me some coaching advice. I said, goodness gracious, man, now I'm in trouble. She's only been watching for 4 years, but she's been awesome. Like, to raise the 3 boys, coach is gone, there's people ask about balance. There is no balance, but there are rhythms. And so we've found our rhythm in season. And she's a military brat, so she's used to kind of doing things on her own, and she can do that. Doesn't mean she loves doing it that way. And then the boys have just been awesome. Like, to be able to, pick Maddox up to the press conference and cut down some nets. I don't know that he's going to remember any of this stuff. I like to think that Mason will. I will tell one great story about Mason, but a couple years ago, he's down there in Salem with us. The ODAC tournament, we haven't won one yet. We got the championship game, and Mason is, because Morgan is running around with the other one, Mason is like with the team. So he thinks he's one of the guys, and we're in the film session, and we're getting ready. It's the day of the game, the day of the championship. Valwez is in it. And again, we haven't even won one yet. So this is, it's a big deal. I'm probably a little tighter than I need to be. And we're in the film session, and the lights are off, and the whole team is in the hotel room. We're watching some film, and Mason puts his hand up. We're 6 clips in, and I'm I try to ignore it. A couple more clips go by, and
how old is he?
He's 4 years old at the time.
Okay.
And he goes, and I still he kind of stammered, stuttered with it. He's like, Dad, how about we just get the ball to Buzz and he scores?
It's not a bad approach.
And our scene, I still remember Kent Gilgrove going, Mason, that's pretty much what we do. And the room was just breaking up, and he was just he loosened that. Or if those guys were already loose, then he loosened me up enough, and we go on to win that game, and have been pretty good ever since.
That's a fantastic story. That's great. He's only 4 for that.
4 years old. He's a future coach. Just get a good player and get him the ball.
Yeah. Well, he's grown up in your house. I imagine there's a chance that he becomes a basketball coach.
He might. He's definitely into it. Well, the other thing is when I finally told Mason, I waited 3 years to coach him on anything. I don't want to be honest what I do. So, and I'm like, hey, Mace, you might want to just freeze that finish. I'm telling him on the shot. And he goes, Dad. This is the first time I gave him any coaching. He goes, Dad, you don't know anything about basketball. I will teach you.
What's he talking about?
This is my least coachable kid. Is the 3-year-old at the house.
That's beautiful. Hey, well, Josh, I really appreciate you doing this tonight. You didn't have to do it. I appreciate you taking the time to tell the story. Congratulations on a fantastic year. I mean, just an amazing ride that you guys were on. I was glad to watch some of it. And man, I hope you guys repeat next year.
Well, thank you, and amazing setup here. I don't know how you've nailed this interview with no notes. Really impressed with the approach. Silent Rob probably has a lot to do with it as well. But it's been awesome. I remember listening to Pedro and knowing that he's been here for as long as he's been, and thinking, man, I got another 8 years or so before I get on the Center of the Universe podcast. So I'm glad that we fast forwarded it by winning some games. And man, please. To anybody listening to, like you said, you weren't able to get out until to see a game until late. Whatever we can do to get more people just coming by. I always say, if we lose, don't come back. But it is a really fun environment. We love when the community comes out and supports.
Very cool. It's a good thought to end on. Thanks for doing this, Josh.
You got it. Thanks, guys.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to wherever you listen to podcasts. We'd also really appreciate if you'd rate and review us. You can find us at scodupodcast.com.